Right, slightly different video. I basically want to suggest some self-improvement YouTubers, or I give like a brief. I don't want a video to drag on for too long. I want to just give like a brief sort of summary of some of the self-improvement YouTubers that I've watched, and some of them that I still currently watch, and the ones that I don't watch anymore, and I'll tell you why. I'm probably going to come from my notes here because I've kind of noted on every sort of YouTuber basically the recommendation. So the first one, I've spoken about him multiple times before, is Hamza. He's got his Hamza channel and he's got Hamza Unfiltered. The thing that I like about Hamza is that he's very engaging. Like he spoke about it actually in one of his videos on his Unfiltered channel, about how he speaks to you. Like he's not speaking to an audience of people, he's speaking directly to you, and it's something I try to do as well, but to be honest, I've not really been that aware of how I'm speaking or anything, but maybe I should be. Yeah, I really should be. But and he pushes mental health, he promotes that healthy lifestyle. He's very relatable. Like he tells you fucking everything. Like he tells you all his stories of how fucked up he was before. Like he was coming from a far worse situation than I was. And there are still parts in that story that I can relate to, which is why I have formed such an affinity with him. In his videos, he on his main channel, he speaks about Jeffrey being like the classic instant gratification junkie. I spoke about instant gratification a few videos ago. And addicted to porn or drugs and drinking every weekend, going out partying, obsessed with girls but can't get any girls, doesn't go to the gym, doesn't do any good habits, just does bad shit all the time, constantly. And then he's got Adonis. If you watch his videos, he knows that he's always like Adonis, which is basically the ultimate man of how you want to try and shape your life to be more similar to. It's not about being Adonis, it's about becoming more like Adonis in your own sort of way. And Adonis is the classic term for the most masculine alpha male sort of guy. Not mean I'm not gonna sit and explain toxic masculinity, all that shit. Just the ideal man. It's a channel for young men. I'll say that first and foremost. But yeah, I like him. He's a good YouTuber, but there's a lot of times where he's when he speaks very sort of certain. The way he speaks, he's certain about everything he says, and there are a few things that you need to sit and think that's actually not right, or most of what he says is right, but a lot of the time it's because he's speaking in a way that his younger self needed to hear. So if you're watching videos for the first time and he's going off at you for watching YouTube all day and calling you a weirdo and a spaz or whatnot, and you feel hurt by that, it's not because he's trying to hurt you, it's because that's what his younger self needed to hear. And it's just about realizing that he's not targeting you, he's just trying to help his younger self and people who are like his younger self, if that makes sense. I'm sure it does. The next one is First Man, which is probably one of my favourite, and I still watch quite a lot of his videos. He's a wee bit he's older than Hamza. I think he's about 29 at the moment, and Hamza speaks a lot about his principles, about First Man's principles, and it's basically, it all comes from, he's got a book which I've grabbed just now, The Male Advantage, and this is a book that's literally just about the advantage that men have in life, when to exploit it. So the whole idea is that, from about 18 to 28, women are at their peak of social value. So I'm going to say that's social value, where they're the most attractive they'll be, and that's just the fact women are going to be most attractive between 18 till maybe 30 at a push. And then a lot of men, their social value isn't it's not fair, but women's social value is mostly measured on how they look, and their personality comes kind of second, and that's just that's kind of how it is. And for men, social value comes from like ability to provide. It's like very sort of primitive things basically. It's like ability to provide, so like wealth, as well as being able to protect, all this sort of stuff. And like that shit takes years to build. And his theory is like basically men aren't really going to hit their peak until around 30, 35-ish. And he calls that the male advantage. The outlier male being the guy who's like great across the board. So he's wealthy, he's charismatic, he's good looking, he's got a good physique, all this sort of stuff. He loves talking about like life setup when you've got a nice house, a nice car, and that stuff, and it attracts women or whatnot. Like, but he does, like, if you listen to his arguments and stuff, he knows what he's talking about. And at the moment he's coming into his male advantage, as he likes to say, and he's just moved into a penthouse and stuff. He can start building his business out even more. And he's a big advocate of like men need to sacrifice quite a few years of like fun during the 20s when society wants everyone to live on the sort of same timeline. But he's like, well, women and men kind of have slightly different timelines of when they're at their best. And similar to Hamza, there are some points where I'm like, shut the fuck up, man, it's not that deep. But like at the same time, like it's working for him. Like he always talks about like doing like facial exercises and stuff, and like I've never really done facial exercise, but I still kind of got a jawline and stuff. And he talks about like submental zone and stuff. Like there's one video he's like going, try to like show you how to activate this muscle in here to lift your, and like that's fine for people who like I don't want to sound cocky or anything, but weren't blessed genetically with looks. Or like a lot of like my jawline comes from because I chew gum like all the time. Like every day I'm chewing gum, so like obviously my jaw's gonna build up and look better. And like it's just stuff like that. Like you have to interpret everything that he says for yourself. But the one thing, like the one slight I would put on him is that he doesn't like, although he does speak about some of his like where he comes from, his past and stuff, he doesn't put a massive push on mental health. Like he won't bring it up as like the main thing for a video, which it can be a flaw. But like I say, if you go in with your own sort of, you have to like this a video that I want to make, and like you have to be a philosopher, you have to be able to take in the content and process it for yourself, and that's a similar thing here. The third one is going to be Andrew Kirby, and this is the first guy I got into self-improvement with. Like it would have been probably during lockdown, where he started popping off, and like the main things you get from him is sort of dopamine detox, which is basically the idea, like when I've spoken about dopamine before, like when we do a task and we get a reward, like the brain's rewarded with dopamine, which is like a pleasure chemical for signaling like you've achieved something. Yeah. And like dopamine detox, basically trying to reduce the amount of dopamine we get. So like we get rewarded with dopamine just from like a like on social media, or like scrolling on social media, or getting a follow, or even like pressing a key on your computer and something comes up, you get a tiny hit of dopamine. But it's about reducing that set, so your dopamine levels set to where they should be. So like the things that should be more stimulating actually are that stimulating, rather than getting completely drowned out by really meaningless things like getting likes on social media and just getting like small hits of dopamine from things that don't matter. So when like the things that really matter, like when you're in a relationship and you actually have those like tender moments with your partner, then it feels more special because your brain's not so flooded with extra dopamine that it doesn't need. And I think that's really good stuff to get onto. Hamza also speaks about dopamine detox. Andrew Kirby goes a lot into sort of how to build wealth and stuff now as well. I don't actually watch him that very often. I feel like he makes really good videos and like his advice is really good. His main sort of philosophy is about becoming an online synthesizer to create money, which is basically like you collate kind of what I'm doing basically, in terms of I'm reading loads of books and consuming loads of information and applying it to myself, philosophizing it, realizing what works for me, what doesn't, and like how, and actually using wisdom and I'm sharing it with you in a more condensed format. Although it might not seem very condensed because some of the videos, it seems like I'm waffling on a wee bit, but like it's more condensed. Like you can watch 7 minutes of me talking about a topic that took me sort of 3-4 months maybe to actually ingrain into my brain and learn properly and apply and make mistakes with and all this. So that's how he's suggesting like making money and stuff, which is very good, and I suggest you watch a few of his videos. I just don't watch him anymore because I don't have any sort of personal affiliation with him. Like he doesn't, like First Man and Hamza both speak about their stories, and like you build a personal bond with them because they tell you about the times, like I told you about the times where I couldn't get my dick hard, try to have sex. I've told you about my trauma that I had, about how my mum used to get really angry and stuff and how that affected all my relationships, and like there's more shit obviously that happened in my life, that like hard times, like crying and all this shit from injuries. Literally, like sometimes when I got injured a few times when I was young, I think I done my ankle back to back. The second time I done it, I literally was at the side of the pitch crying my eyes out for the rest of the game because I was that upset. Like that sort of stuff, you build a personal connection with First Man and Hamza. But Andrew Kirby, I never really felt like you do. Like he speaks sometimes about like how he used to be addicted to dopamine and instant gratification, and yeah, but who isn't? Like who isn't? Who doesn't have that story? There's nothing like outstandingly personal that I've found with him, but he does have a lot of good wisdom and stuff, and so I suggest watching a few of his videos. The next one is Cole Hastings, which Hamza actually does a podcast with. Oh, it was Cole's podcast. I can't remember what it's called, but it's on YouTube. If you just search Cole Hastings and Hamza, it'll come up. And he's a very good YouTuber, like Hamza is, or like all the other YouTubers. He's very wise. Like he knows a lot of shit about self-improvement and stuff. He does speak about his former stories and stuff. And it's really good to hear that advice, but like he's got really good quality videos. Like he's a filmmaker, videographer and stuff as well, so he's got like really good like B-roll, which is like background roll. I think that's what I gathered what B-roll is. Same with the next channel, which I'll mention. But the one thing with Cole, which actually came up on that podcast with Hamza, and he's not very sort of polarizing, he's very like sort of in the middle with everything, which is, it's actually quite good if you're just getting started, because it almost feels like less pressure to get yourself started, but at the same time it doesn't push you to start, it just makes you feel more comfortable. It's like a good introduction to self-improvement. You learn all this stuff, and some of his wisdom I do apply. Like he's very big on like interpreting things for yourself and not just saying what he says as face value, which is really positive, but it doesn't motivate you to get started like someone like Hamza, someone like First Man, someone like Andrew Kirby as well. They tell you what to do, which I find more motivating, and then I can actually go and apply that. But then I use Cole Hastings' logic of interpret this for yourself, so I go and do it as prescribed, and then I figure out how to put my own spin on things. And for that, I think Cole's very good. That wisdom of viewing things for yourself, and for getting new people into self-improvement, just to see what everything's about, like the different habits and stuff that you can have. He's not telling you to do these habits, he's just suggesting them, if you know what I mean. So he's very good for introduction, but not for taking action. The last one is Better Ideas. I think the guy's called Joey. Great guy. He's very similar to Cole in terms of, I'd say he's probably very similar to Cole actually. Yeah, he's really good background filming and stuff, and very good wisdom, but it's the same as Cole. He's not very assertive with how he speaks to you, but he kind of gives you that sort of, he knows what he's speaking about, and he's just giving suggestions as to what's worked for him, or what's very commonly good and things that he's tried. But he doesn't, same with Andrew Kirby, I don't feel like I know him. Yeah, I think he's got a vlogging channel as well, but I've never watched it. But from his Better Ideas channel, I don't feel like I know who he is. But yeah, those are I think the last one, I've not actually wrote a thing on here because I just remembered him like as I was coming to record the video, but Ali Abdal, he's more on the sort of productivity thing, but that is part of self-improvement, is like becoming more productive. And he's actually the guy who, like, I watched a lot of his videos on how to become successful on YouTube. I was thinking about doing this course, but I don't have a spare £1,000, unfortunately, which is a bit annoying, but I might do it at some point in the future still, because I feel like there's going to be a lot of knowledge on how to grow properly on YouTube. I've just taken his advice on the sort of consistency and just post. Like, don't worry too much about the quality of things. Everything builds. Like, if you go back and watch my first video on how to be happy, I speak to the camera completely differently now. Like, I'm looking at the camera and, like, I speak with a bit more assertiveness. I feel so much more comfortable in the front of the camera. And the main thing is, for me, is like I feel comfortable actually taking a pause when I'm speaking. And when I record that how to be happy video, and like even some videos I've done recently, like the word like, saying stuff like that, these filler words, that's actually something that when I was in uni, when I was doing like class presentations, that's something that the teacher picked up on. I need to stop using so many filler words. And I think that being confident in not saying something while still holding an audience's attention is a very valuable skill that not only good for a YouTube, it makes the video more engaging, but it also makes me be able to speak more comfortably in, like, in my team environments when I'm at rugby and stuff, which is, I think, is really great. So Ali Abdallah, check him out as well if you're trying to build a business or just get more productive, whether you're a student or you've got like a 9-to-5 job, on how to be more efficient and more productive. But the last point I kind of want to leave is actually, can I just say, Hamza Unfiltered is probably the better channel if you're already into self-improvement quite a bit, because he speaks for it, like, just completely unfiltered. Like, there's some videos like an hour long where he's just talking about all the things that he's fucked up and all the bad habits he's still doing, which is really good to see that he's so open and honest. And that's probably why he's one of the ones I still watch occasionally. I don't watch YouTube as much now, which is my final point, is there's only so much YouTube that you can watch until you're not being productive anymore. Like, with First Man and Hamza, I've watched most of their videos now, and I know, like, their whole philosophy in and out, basically. So I do think there's value in going through these periods of binge watching these YouTubers, but then you've got to start realizing, once you're not learning anything new, and you can kind of predict from a title what they're going to talk about, you need to start getting on your shit and doing what they're talking about. You need to start putting their philosophy into place, and also putting your own spin onto the philosophy and figuring out what works best in your situation. That's all I've got to say. If you're really enjoying self-improvement and you found this video valuable, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. That lets me know that you're enjoying the content. It lets the YouTube algorithm know, and it helps grow the channel, so more people will hopefully find my videos and get into self-improvement, and makes the world a better place, doesn't it? Let's be honest. Until next time, guys. See you later.